I will talk about the spread ball screen defense. But first, before we get into it, I think it's important to talk about the evolution of the spacing, and then we will understand better why I'm really excited about talking the spread ball screen defense. I think we can be all agreed that there is an increased ability of the offense to create advantages, and also that the ball screen is the most used advantage creation mechanism. And it will be interesting to consider the spread ball screen, because the spacing has become more dynamic than ever. What does this mean? It means that the ball screen is not a two-player action anymore. I think that when we watch a basketball game, we can see that all 5 players are basically involved in the pick and roll action. Offense looks to prevent or to punish the ball screen coverage, so as the protection find a way to punish the defensive choices, and the defense looks to find a way to neutralize the advantages and to take away individual strength and individual and collective strength. This is the reason I put here that it's basically a cat and mouse game between the offense and the defense, each trying to find a way to win. And the reason I will talk about the spread ball screen, because you guys can see here in my screen that there is a huge space for the offense to create an advantage, and the defense needs to make the right decision how they want to guard this action. Okay, there are many different ball screen spacing, as top, elbow, spread, wing, single tag, roll and slide, Spain, flat, step up. There are a bunch of those, but I think this is a very interesting one. So the spread ball screen, we call here spread ball screen, when the pick and roll is going to the two-man side. Okay. So in the presentation overall, we will talk about the coverage, the protection, the closeouts, rotations, and the contest in the end. Okay, so here's a little diagram about the main defensive choices in the German BB. You need to know that these percentages are based basically on the primary defense of the teams. Obviously, all the teams can have like secondary defenses, or they can adapt their coverage and protection to the personnel to different players. But in terms of the primary ball screen coverages, these were the main decisions the teams made. So you can see that hard show in the coverage were the most popular one here in Germany, then the quick show, then the downing, and basically same amount of weaking, high, flat, and drop. We are not talking about now switching, for example, because there was no team in the German league that would have switching as the primary solution for the spread ball screens. Obviously, there was teams that went into switching defense at some point, but that wasn't the primary option for them. And before we watch the videos and get into the spread ball screen defense and the different defensive choices, I would you guys to ask these questions in order to punish these defenses. So for me, it's a very important question from an offensive standpoint, where the ball screen takes place, depending on the ball screen coverage. So it can be more to the sideline or more to the elbow. If the ball screen is more to the top, let's say so, then I won't consider it as spread ball screen anymore. I would talk about the single tag situation. So here, the first decision which we must make as the offense is against certain coverages where we want to put this spread ball screen. Second thing I would consider is, what does the ball handler do? What we want him to do? We want him against this coverage to turn the corner. We want him to attack the opposite elbow. We want him to be a passer. We want him to be a scorer. So these are the questions I would consider. If we are talking about the screener, obviously we can talk about different angles, how we want the screener to set the screen, in which angle. Do we want him to set the screen, or we want him to slip We want him to touch and go. We want him to hold the screen. These are decisions we need to make against different coverages. How we want him to exit out of the screen. We want him to front pivot. We want him to reverse pivot. What is the best solution against the coverage? Where he should roll. Should he short roll? Should he deep roll? Should he diagonal roll? These are all decisions that we need to work on after we made the decision with each and every player. What does the single side do? Do we want him to lift? Do we want him to stay in the corner? Where we want him to lift just above the break? We want him to lift high. When we want him to lift? Should it be an early lift? Should it be a late lift? These are the decisions we should he cut at some moment? These are the decisions we need to make here. What does the two side do? Do we want them to space? Do we want them to support? Do we want them to cut? Do we want them to flare drift? What are they doing? But overall, I think the defense will give us the answers. But the very important thing, as we were talking about the evolution of the spacing, that the spacing is dynamic. All 5 players must be on the same page, and all 5 players need to have an idea what they need to do, how we want to prevent or to punish the coverage. If you have any question before we go to the videos, feel free to ask. If not, we go right away to the videos.
Adrian, I got a question, and just thinking offensively for a second. It's something I've seen you guys do. Is you mentioned the lift on the single side, about sometimes you'll hold that spacing, sometimes there'll be a late lift, early lift. Can you just talk about that at all? About like what determines you guys holding the corner? Can you talk about that at all? Because I've seen you guys do it, and I've seen like the Utah Jazz do that as well here in America, but I don't really understand the teaching behind it, and I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, it's connected to the coverage and the protection. We want to punish or prevent the coverage all the time. Basically, if we are talking about the short roll against, for example, an aggressive ball screen coverage, and we want to deliver that pass to the short roll, to the elbow, and there are teams that are aggressive from the single side helping to that short roll, we don't want this guy to lift at all. We want to extend this defender so we can have an open shot from the corner. We want to control the catch with camera, watching this defender decision, stop our momentum and take this decision from here. We don't want to lift into the short roll, for example. But if we are talking about turning the corner and getting behind with the roller, definitely we want to split this defender again and make him a tough decision. If he will have for the roll, then we will have him open behind the screen. If he's not committing to the roll, we can, by turning the corner, we can deliver that lob pass, for example, for the roller. So these are different decisions that we must take with this guy, because it's basically a spacing standpoint. So that if there's a short roll, we don't want to lift. We always want to make the recovery or the help as long as possible, and to put the defender in two-way motion, or that it should be difficult for the defense.
And I would say, Adrian, the question is going into a game, when you're anticipating this aggressive coverage, you're telling the 5, hey, look, it's a short roll game for you. And that then also tells the single side, look, we're probably staying down because he's going to be short rolling a lot.
Obviously, yes, we are doing the scouting, and then we have an idea about the ball screen coverage and the protection, and we try to adapt our spacing and our, let's call it sets, but we can call it only entries, to get into the ball screen situation and then to punish right away the defensive choices with our actions. So if it's, for example, there are two different options against the hard shot. For example, we can go to the short roll, or we can support from the two side and try to triangle it and with a diagonal roll and extend this defender as far as possible, the last, and put him into a very difficult situation to make a decision again who helps to the roll after the support. But we will see now a couple of videos, and I think it will be clear. I will talk more from a defensive standpoint now. Let's like the defensive choices, but I wanted to introduce these questions for you guys, that this is the way I think, or we think in our coaching staff, that there are some defensive choices, but we need to, this is a cat and mouse game again. The defense makes a decision, but we want to be one step ahead before the game starts and look to punish those defensive decisions right away. For example, here's one video. I will try to stop it in the right moment. Here you can see there is an aggressive ball screen coverage with the protection with these three guys. This is a hard show, and we have a last. And basically what the offense is doing now is support, right? He could be a little bit closer to the elbow, so this pass would be easier. And from this moment, basically, he will be the decision maker. He will be the decision maker, and we can see that the thing we were talking about here, this guy is a passer now. So they made the decision first to play it closer to the elbow, to basically support, to be a passer, and we will see if he rolls diagonally to extend the single tag defender, or he will short roll, or what will be the decision. But here, from a defensive standpoint, we can see that the coverage is an aggressive ball screen coverage, that the handler's defender is basically in the same passing lane with the short roll pass. We are missing here a stunt, probably from the single tag, but we will see what is going to happen. And we can see, and we don't know because we don't know their terminology or their concept, but we can see also that the X-out position is basically in the same passing lane as the corner guy. So basically he's inviting this pass to happen because the recovery would be easier for him. And when this pass goes on the air time, he would be also able to recover. And with the stunt, this guy would be able to stop the roller's momentum and give time to 19 to recover back to his own man. So here, he will make the decision. We can see, oh, I don't know if I can go back, but we could see 22 denying the extra pass. So this is something they probably worked on. And then from the single tag side, there was a stunt for the roll, which opened up this passing lane to the shooter, and they could take this open shot here. Another defensive choice. If you want to stop me, by let it roll once. So high post entry to the 5. Then the aggressive coverage here with the protection, offering the early pass to the position 4. We see denying the extra pass to the corner, a single tag stunt, and which opens the passing lane and the shot. Here we can see the quick show plus next concept. High post entry again. We will stop it here. We can see the quick show. Ball handlers getting to the hip. Quick show trying to avoid the corner turn. Next is in place, ready to stunt, depending on how aggressive the corner turn is, or if the ball handler is able to punch through. Single tag side is ready for the diagonal tag, and last is in place. Now there is an offensive choice against this concept, what we will see that we call flare drift. that this guy will set the screen on the low guy, and this guy will space, extending the next as much as possible, putting him into two-way motion. Very difficult situation for him to stop the ball and to recover. Again, what we were talking about before, a very long recovery. Now you will see. And the shot. Let's go again. And while you are watching this video, you can think about those questions. If the ball screen is at the right spot from an offensive standpoint, if the ball handler is doing the right thing, if the roller is doing the right thing, if the single tag is doing the right thing, and the two side. What about the two side? So these are the questions we should make. But now we saw already the hard show. We saw already the quick show plus next. Let's go with the next one, which is down and nail help. These are all defensive choices from the BBL for basically the same situation, the same spacing. We can see here that they are denying the ball handler to go to the middle. I will go again. I will try to stop in the right moment here. Yes, we can see the coverage denying the middle, being with the big in the basket and ball line, ready to stunt and recover to the nail area. Here, a diagonal stunt, the responsibility to recover to his man from the strong side and last in place. And now again, this is a very different situation. We can have very different offensive choices. We can get behind, we can pop. If we pop, we can cut from the two side. These are offensive decisions what we need to make. But now we are talking more about defense. But those are the questions we should think about. Here, the decision the offense made was to pop the 5 and to attack downhill with the guard to extend this recovery from the big, and then they could develop the action to create numbers situation on the two side by moving it quick, by cutting to the basket, by dividing the defense. Because if number 1 would attack downhill now and pass the ball to 5, and there would be a cut, for example, from 45 degrees, you guys can already see that this guy make a decision. If he takes the cut, then the guy from the corner could lift just above the break, and this player would be completely in between two offensive players. So these are the decisions, but again, a different defensive choice by the defense in the coverage. And the last thing we have here is the weak. When the coverage is pushing you to the weak hand, we will see a very nice example with two different spread ball screens, and it will be clear that it's a weak situation because we are talking about here number 22 right-handed guy. So here clearly with a high flat situation pushing him to the left, it could be a high flat, regular high flat, but when they move it to the other side, we will see that it's a weak. I let it go here, pushing him to the left again. So they want him to go to his left hand all the time. Now it's a very similar concept to what we saw before, the downing defense, but now we have the nail more defined. We will see that as soon as he pops or short rolls and puts the ball on the deck, this guy will commit. So probably again one of the best solutions, or basically it depends on you. You can switch or change the angle of the screen, set the screen with the butt, for example, snake it, and you would find again 3 against 2 situation on the two side. You can just pop, or you can look to get behind. And then the question again, what we will have, do we want an early lift? Do we want a late lift? These are the questions we should answer as the offensive team. But here you can see the solution, that it's basically a pop into a drive, Nia commits, okay, there is no reaction from the two sides, they hold the spacing. So we could have a nice discussion about, is it right or is it wrong